Hello and welcome to Gouldian Junction. I'm going to go away from my scenic area for a second and do a complete different video for what I normally do. This video I'm going to make, or I'm going to show you how to wire up point motors. Now this isn't going to be like the normal commercial one that, you know, shows you just one point motor. I'm going to show you more like a review on the point motors, on how their performance is and everything like that. I've tried several different point motors in my life so far, and each point motor has an advantage and disadvantage and so on. So I'm going to show you, I think I've got 4 or 5 different point motors that I've used. I'm going to show you each one. I'm going to wire them all from start to finish. I'm not going to cut any parts out of it. I'm going to show you everything. I will just edit what's not necessary in the end. So most people start off and they think of, you know, which point motor to use and stuff. I'm going to use this board as my template. I'm going to put a point on it. I'm going to show you from start to finish how I wire it and how to mount it to an actual electronic transformer or something. Yeah, let's get to it. So the point motors I'm going to show you in my review, starting off with the Peco one, is the side mounted point motor. Now this point motor has its advantages and its disadvantages, like most point motors. An advantage to it is that you can put it on top of your baseboard. You could blend it in with some scenery, and it's perfect if you have a 2-level baseboard and you don't have much room between the 2 levels to fit an actual bigger point motor below it. So in that case, putting it on top is the ideal thing for it. Now I'm going to take this, and of course the other advantage to it is when you lay your point motor. This is just a Peco point. It is. It's just a short. It's an insulated frog one. It is. It's just an old one I've got laying around. The advantage of having the side point motor is that you don't have to actually drill a big hole underneath. So when you ballast and stuff, no ballast falls below to the tracks below, causing derailments and getting into your trains and making a mess and whatever else. So that's an advantage it has. The disadvantages I found with it is that it was very hard to align, to actually get it in the actual thing, to get it to actually flick across, you know. This was just one problem I found with it. Sometimes the motor would flick across, sometimes it wouldn't. As I said, I'm going to make this video. It's going to be long, so skip over it if there's any unnecessary parts. This is more for beginners to understand how a point motor works with these. I'm going to pin my track down. So I'm going to just pin it where the holes are. Now, alright, so there's step 1. You've got your point installed. Now you've got to put your point motor. With these, they say it's quite simple. You just push them up next to the sleeper and it should actually be pretty aligned. So they say. I found this not to be true. So sometimes you have to adjust it a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right, a little bit back, a little bit forward, just to make sure it absolutely threw perfect. So I'm going to wire this up now. I'm going to get my transformer and start wiring it up. I'm just going to prepare my transformer. So I prepared my transformer now. I use, for my power source, I have got a 12 volt LED transformer which I use for lighting signs up for my work. I have an old one that I had laying around that they weren't working the best inside the light boxes, so we ripped them out, and I figured I took one home for my layout. So anyway, when you install these, like I said, you need to get it roughly in the right position, and then you need to put like a pin down. I use my little nails that I've said in the video. Not too sure if you can see that, but these nails, they're actually your push tacks that you buy from just like your supermarket, and then I cut the yellow piece away, and then I use these little nails. I like them because they've got a like nice little flat head on it, you know, instead of it just being like a point on the end or something. So they're really good for actually using, I found, and when you ballast and stuff and you weather, you barely even notice them. So I finished the first part, which would be you laid your track, you got your point motor in place. Next thing I would do for the side mounted point motor is drill a hole. So I drill a hole where the point motor wire is roughly going to go. I'd already pre-marked it, so I knew where the hole was. I'm just going to clean the dust away for a quick second. So I've cleaned that away. You could use a knife just to level it out, blow it off, get any dust away. Alright, so I've got my point motor now. The next thing I'm going to do is add the wires to it. I'm going to add next thing I'm going to do is add wires to it. I'm going to add a red wire, a black wire, and a green wire just for the extension. And these are going to run to my toggle switch. The black and red wire is. And the green wire is going to run back to the transformer. So it's the return. So first of all, I'll wire the green one up into place. So first of all, I'll wire the green one in place. I just solder it on quickly. So that's the first one done. The next one's a red one. It's going to go to the toggle switch. Now I'm going to put my points wires through the hole here, and then I'm going to solder the wires on. Normally I would suggest you do this beforehand, but you could also do it afterwards too, if you can access your wires. But I mean, to save working in a tight place, I would normally do it beforehand. But as I've got quite an open space here, it doesn't really affect me. So I've got the point motor there, roughly where it's going to go. There somewhere. Then I've got a red wire here that comes from my toggle switch, which I'm going to wire to the red wire here. So I just turn the camera for you. So as this is just a demo, I'm going to show you how I normally do it on my actual layout if I use these switches. As I mentioned, I used these a few years ago. I actually don't use them anymore, but I may use them again. I haven't decided yet. So I soldered that on. I normally get a bit of shrink tubing just to cover them. This tubing's already shrunk a little bit, so it's a bit difficult now to actually get it over. I could just clean off a little bit just to help it go on. Yeah, I just cover it over like that, and then I heat it up with my heater gun. I have a heat gun. Its temperature on the heat gun is about 500 degrees. It's probably overkill, but it's so I can do it quite fast. The next wire here is the black one. Again, I'm going to just solder this on. I've already tinged the edges, so it's easier to melt the two together. Again, I've got a heat shrink stuff. Normally I would, sometimes you have a bigger one I use as well, but I've kind of ran out of that one, so I'm just trying to use the thin one I've got here, which normally does anyway. I normally just force it over, so I'm not going to worry about heating that up. The black one, of course, is going to go to the other side of the switch. So the next thing is, this is just a piece of, this is an old control board that I made a long time ago. This was actually going to be made for my signals, for the overthrow switch. Back when I had my old layout, I haven't thrown it away or anything, so don't take note of the writing or anything. I've just kept this for an example piece eventually. So what you're going to do is, I've got a toggle switch, right? Now, you can buy these from an electronic shop. This one has an automatic spring, so it returns back to the center. When you're using these point motors, you must have one that automatically turns back to the center, so it turns the power off. Otherwise you'll burn your point motor out. I've done that on several point motors, burnt them out because I've had the wrong toggle switch, especially in the start when I was learning. I brought one that flicked up, then it flicked to the middle and turned off, and then down. It didn't have the spring that automatically flicked to the middle. Now, you can also buy them. Gauge Master sells them as an accessory. I'm not too sure what the article number is. Here it is here. It's GM510. So it's an on-off-on switch it is. I brought these from Hutton's. So I brought just a couple of them back when I used these point motors and when I was going to go down that road. So now that I'm not using them point motors, I no longer use them, so they're sitting around. So this is just for your convenience, this video. So the next thing is, I'll drill a hole. This would be if So, I've drilled a hole for my toggle switch now. Now, this is actually acrylic, the top pieces, so I drilled it slow so I don't crack it. It's actually quite thick. It's 4 or 5 millimeters thick acrylic it is. So it's not as easy to crack, but of course if I was to whack it through, it would crack quite fast. The next thing is, before I actually put the toggle switch into place, right, I want to put the wires onto it for the switch. So again, what I normally do, for the video I will show you. What I normally do, I normally wire this onto the toggle switch. I bring it forward. I do a zoom in. I've already have soldered the positive wire, which goes to the transformer, and the red one now that you see, I've already pre-done them. I quickly put this one on the end here. So, it's on the end. Then I get my heat shrink, put it over the top, stop any short circuiting from happening. I didn't put the heat shrink tubing on one time, and I was very bad with welding the wires on, soldering the wires on, and they melted together, caught a short circuit, and in the end I melted all my cables, had to redo it all over again. Made a lot of work for myself. So, as you can see, the switch is there. I haven't got the power on yet to it, so it's not going to work until I wire the last wire in. So I've got the return, which is the negative, the green is, that comes from the point. The green wire, which is the negative one, comes from the point here. It goes through your baseboard, and then this one returns to the transformer, completing the circuit. It's very important that the green one is negative, otherwise you have a positive power going into the coils here all the time, and that ain't good for the point motor. It can burn it out. So I give it a test, and now that I've got it in place there, I'll get a pin, the same ones I put my truck down with, and I push them in place here. So the first pin's in. Second pin is in. I can get a nail punch. Push it down with my nail punch so I don't actually hit the point motor with my hammer. That's how I normally push them down when I've done the side pointed motors. So now you can see it flicks. It works. These point motors for installation, I would probably give them about a 7 out of 10. Considering they've already got the pre-wires, that saves a little bit of time having to actually wire them onto the actual point motor itself. For performance, they work quite well, as you can see. For how long they last, I'm not too sure, because I haven't had one that's broken yet that I haven't burnt out myself. So as you can see, it works pretty good. The looks of them, they're pretty good next to the point motor. As I'm not too sure if I mentioned, it's very important you put it along the straight edge of the actual track, because if you put it on the inside here, when a carriage comes around, or a train, or a locomotive if you want to call it, it will side sweep the end of it here. So I have a spare one here just to show you. Like if you were to put the point motor this way, right, the carriage will actually hit it. So you can get away with putting them like this, okay? Yeah, as long as you don't have another curve here. So if you had another point here which curved that way, the carriage would hit it. You wouldn't be able to do it. So it's very important you normally try to put them along the straight edge, and that will keep you out of trouble with them. Overall, I would give this point probably a 7 out of 10, just because of the performance of them and the installation of them. You don't have any extra switch that you can actually put them to the frog if you have a electrofrog. But overall, they work quite well. They're pretty easy to install and pretty fast, as you can see. I installed this one reasonably quick. So probably about 15-20 minutes it would take approximately to install them to the toggle switch. So yeah. My next video, I will do a point review on the Gauge Master SEEP. I will. And I'll show you how I install these onto my layout when I've used them, and which I found the best method is for them. So keep an eye out for that video. If you like what you see, you can subscribe by clicking the icon at the top left corner. And if you want to see other videos from Gouldian Junction, click on the right top corner. Thanks for watching, and see you soon. Bye.